I spoke with Forbes senior editor Alex Konrad all about this and more, as well as how the Forbes Midas list has continued to serve as a beacon of the VC industry. Over time, let's take a look.
It's remarkable that we've been doing this for 23 years. I've actually worked on it personally for over 10 years of that, which is crazy. And over even those 10 years, but the whole arc of the list, it's gotten more data-driven, more of a complete view of the venture capital industry in a way that can't really be easily replicated and has become sort of this gold standard for continued success in the industry.
Let's talk about how the methodology has changed for the list, especially after COVID and with higher inflation.
You know, when I look back at the first Midas list from when I was still in school, they had lawyers, they had all sorts of random people on them, which I guess mattered in the much smaller ecosystem back then. Today, there are a lot of VCs, as I'm sure our audience knows, and a lot of important venture capital firms. Hundreds of those submit data every single year. And so we have over 20 years of historical data. Then we get data from public available sources, we cross-reference, and so if someone's trying to pull a fast one on us, we can, triangulate the data and figure that out. And so that data set really makes this kind of a definitive data-driven ranking.
And AI, it's at the forefront of conversations around the world, especially here on Wall Street. So talk to me about how the new technology is impacting venture capitalism.
OpenAI, which obviously is one of the leading companies in this category, was connected to 3 of the top 10 investors on the Midas list. And OpenAI, Anthropic, other AI models with these really high valuations help drive a lot of folks onto these lists. At the same time, we haven't seen a big AI IPO, at least a pure AI company. We've seen companies like Snowflake or C3 that have said they're very AI centric go public in recent years. But we're going to see even more of these AI investors on Midas when companies like OpenAI potentially go public.
Let's dive into this topic a little bit more. Talk to me about where you see the overall landscape going in the near-term future.
It's really interesting to see these billionaires of the dot-com era like Vinod Khosla, Mark Andreessen, Reid Hoffman, even folks like Bill Gates. All these billionaires have kind of come out of pseudo-retirement to care a lot about AI, and AI really seems to be the big driving trend or area of technology where we're seeing so much investment and also innovation. There are other areas besides AI that are looking increasingly promising.
Talk to me more about how investors, when it comes to the Midas list, are active when it comes to AI regulation and policy.
So I spent a few weeks going deep on the subject for the cover of our current issue of Forbes. So anyone can go to the airport, see it on the newsstand, and pick up the copy here. But what's really interesting to me is that you have these leaders of the software and the internet era trying to decide, should AI be regulated? Should it be open source? Some people believe that geopolitical tensions, such as China taking the lead on AI, mean that we should keep things maybe a little more closed down. Others believe the market can sort of dictate what's going to be safe, what's going to be okay to share with the world, and they want no regulation at all.
Now let's take a look at the list real quick. 3 of the top 10 investors on the list have been backed: crypto, Coinbase, and SpaceX. They received a mention and a blurb ahead of the list. Now, is Forbes weighing certain new technology more heavily than others?
Yeah, so we do see crypto being an important area here, and it's going to be very interesting to see a lot of these tech leaders increasingly going to Washington and trying to lobby for crypto policy. Obviously, we're here at the stock exchange floor, and we see some of these ETFs in crypto being traded too. So crypto is going mainstream, and we are seeing that on the Midas list. Another area I'd love to showcase is defense tech. We had a newcomer on the list named Trey Stevens, and he's the co-founder of Anduril, which is a defense tech unicorn that does autonomous planes, ships, and very much at sort of the center of the defense industry. I think we're going to see defense be a much bigger area of investment among these Midas list investors.
And how do VCs measure risk versus reward?
Venture capital is supposed to be a risk game, but in recent years, we saw a lot of VCs kind of pile on to these multi-billion-dollar kind of, FOMO-induced rounds. I think now we're seeing venture capital go back to its roots a little bit more, where people are actually trying to take risks on new technologies, things that aren't obvious. Of course, with AI, maybe a big caveat that we'd have to put to the side, where FOMO is obviously a huge thing.
And let's go into that topic of technologies real quick. Where do you see the next big mainstream tech headline going?
I think if TikTok gets shut down, we're going to have to see a giant new consumer company. It won't just be Meta and the existing tech players who kind of take up that space. So I think there's room for a big consumer exit. Companies like Uber, Airbnb, Coupang, they helped drive the Midas list of the past. Will it be ByteDance with TikTok? We don't know. So it could be a new company, maybe even an American company that is the next huge consumer play here.
A lot to look out for.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Alex, for joining me today.
Yeah, of course.